I feel like as you get older, you are going up vertically in a tower. And as you look out on the landscape of things, the higher you get, the more you can see, and the more that you can see is beyond your vision, you know? So the higher you get up, the more landscape you become aware of. When you're down on the ground, you're like, you can see only a little bit, but you get really comfortable with knowing that thing really well. And you have no idea about what's the expanses around you. And as you age, every day you're going up the tower a little bit more and realizing the vastness of things that you can't see, while also getting a generally large overview of the things you've already been through, you know. Based on that knowledge, you can kind of project into those distant places, but only to a certain extent, you know. That's what it feels like to me, just getting a higher viewpoint of the horizon day by day, you know, and just realizing that there's still a horizon. That means there's stuff beyond the horizon.
Hey everyone, this is your host Yoshino, and you're listening to episode number 100 of Artist Decoded. I can't believe we made it. We actually hit 100 episodes, and I want to thank every single person that has reached out to me and that's listened to the podcast. And it's really been an enriching experience for myself to be able to give back to the community and to give back to the arts and to really add to the conversation. You know, everyone's been really positive about what the podcast has done for them, and I'm glad that I can be able to facilitate and help inspire people in that capacity. But this is an extremely important episode to me. This episode is with Justin Daashuur Hopkins, who is one of my best friends and business partners in NOH, and he's also an extremely talented musician and artist. So you should definitely go check his work out if you can. You can find him on Instagram at RareBitUltra. And let's see, what is there to say about Justin Daashuur Hopkins? Well, Mr. Hopkins, I met him on episode number 7 of the podcast with our mutual friend Daniel Seagrove. And that was about 3 years ago when we did that episode. You know, during that time, I was going through a lot of transitions in my life and rediscovering my artistic approach and, you know, and trying to find like-minded people along the way that shared that same ideology. And, you know, Justin was, you know, I wasn't really conscious of it at the time, but Justin played a really huge role in, you know, just like expanding my mind and pushing me into thinking about art and my approach to art in a different way. You know, when he moved to Los Angeles about maybe like a year and a half ago, him and I came together and had this opportunity to start NOH, which is, as you may all know, but it's an art collective that Justin and I started in Los Angeles, and we have a gallery and art space, and we do a lot of collaborations with different artists. But prior to meeting Justin, I never had like that collaborative partner in my life, you know, someone that I can share a same vision with and build a community. And, you know, I was really searching for that. And I think that's a reason why I started the podcast, is to kind of, you know, search for those like-minded people along the way, and, you know, also to help better the community and to add to the conversation. But Justin was a very, very big part of that. And him and I have grown this relationship and have really expanded on our idea of what we can provide to the arts. He's just a really great dude, and I'm very, very appreciative of Justin. But anyways, to get into a little bit of the episode, so this episode, Justin and I, we talk about his introduction into illustrating and working as a professional illustrator at the age of 14. We also talk about dissecting traditional educational systems and why him and I both didn't really fit into that traditional educational stream. We talk about creative business partnerships and what that means to us. We also touch on Joseph Campbell a bit, and we talk about Sean Baker, who is a really amazing director that created the Florida Project. You might have seen a film that he came out with called Tangerine. we go into a couple books. One book in particular that Justin told me to read called Gödel, Escher, Bach, An Eternal Golden Braid by Douglas Hofstadter. And I'm currently reading right now. So touch on that, and we touch on a lot of different subjects, and including the origin story of no wave. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Justin and I have this certain kind of rhythm and certain cadence, the way that we joke. So you can kind of get a little glimpse into what it's like on a daily basis between Justin and I. And hopefully you enjoy that. Some of it's kind of lame, but maybe you might find it kind of charming and funny. So I'll let you be the judge of that. I also want to invite everyone to come out to our next group show at No Wave. It's called Heat Wave. It's going to be taking place on August 10th. We'll also be celebrating the 100th episode of Artists Decoded at this particular event. It's going to be at our gallery in Los Angeles. So please go to nohwave.co to check out some more information. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, please do so at our website, artistdecoded.com. There's a donate link, which will take you directly to our PayPal. And if you can't donate, I completely understand. Please go to our iTunes page and leave us a review. So here it is, episode number 100 with my good friend and business partner, Justin Daashuur Hopkins for Artists Decoded. Hope you enjoy. Does this feel weird?
Of course it does. Of course it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Why? Because we talk to each other every day and now we're recording it?
Well, now I have to like kind of try to think about someone else listening to it and being like actually actively interesting, you know? Mostly we just, tell stupid jokes all day. You know?
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess so.
I mean, there's tidbits of wisdom throughout the day.
Yeah, mostly it's in I've noticed mostly the philosophical conversations happen in the car ride to other places, you know?
Do they?
Yeah, all the time. Like I notice when we're right as we're about to go into a meeting is when we have our best conversations, and then that whole thing is slate is wiped clean as soon as we have to go in the meeting. Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, because of the office, we're usually just sitting there at the computer and
actually working, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's kind of a different mindset. Also, when you go into the car, you like kind of, I'm always thinking about like what should we listen to, which is like, it just puts your mind in a different mindset to like take in information, you know?
Yeah. Maybe we should start off with
two guys talking about how they're getting old kind of thing.
Yeah, just reliving the past, all these years that we've known each other.
Yep. Going on 3 now. 2.5.
Yeah. Maybe we should talk about how me and you met.
Sure. Go ahead. You're leading the conversation, right?
Okay, so let's see. Yeah, we met on this podcast, episode 7.
Yeah.
It was you and Seagrove in my old house.
Yeah, in the South Bay.
In the South Bay.
Yeah. Well, we had met online before that, right? Because we had all those mutual friends with Ashley Owens and Conan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was living in New York, and I went to high school with Ashley, who's like kind of like a fashion mogul kind of lady now, in a way. I don't know, like her magazine's really cool and suited. And Conan shot for that magazine, and I met him through her. And then you guys were buddies from back.
Well, he was the photo director or something for a while, or photo editor.
Yeah. Yeah, and I knew him because Ashley introduced me to him so we could like do some collaborative stuff or something together when I was living in New York. And then I think I heard your first podcast with Casey because of Ashley. It's like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. Because you went.
Right, that's cool. This guy's kind of an idiot, but
no. I'm just like, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I didn't really hear any podcasts with like painters that were in the same field I was in, you know. So I thought that was interesting. And then so we were on the 6 episodes later. Me and Seagrove and Emilio had just started Low Collective, like maybe 6 months before that. No, maybe a year. And we went on the show to talk about that because we were in town for a show, right? Is that right? I think that's right.
Yeah, I think so.
We were.
Were you doing a low show or what?
It was our first
show.
It was our first low show at Dream Factory. You helped us hook up with that. So
no, that wasn't the day though.
No,
it wasn't. That came a year later. When we recorded, that was in around, I think it was
July,
November of 2015 or something.
Really?
And then in 2016, in August of 2016 was that show.
What? Because we did July 2016, I guess, was that show.
Oh, July.
Yeah, because it was July 7th, I think was the show. Really? What was I out here for then? Doesn't matter. Anyways, I was here for some kind of low thing with Seagrove, and we just made it happen.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so Seagrove and I and Emilio started that thing, and then we were out here for something to do with that, and it just kind of lined up, I guess, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then it seemed like what you were doing with the podcast and what we were trying to do with whatever it is we were trying to do, I don't think that was clear, seemed to match up and overlap. And that was, I feel like that was like the
catalyst?
Yeah, the two, like the sperm and the egg, if you will, of No Wave.
So whose sperm and whose egg was it?
I think we've went over this, man. I'm the dad. I'm the disciplinarian daddy, and you're you're like the cool mom of No Way.
I'm the cool mom.
Yeah, I'm the.
Hopefully, I'm not the soccer mom.
No, I'm the mom. That's right. I was the mom, so it was my egg.
Oh, okay.
I was the mama bear, and you were the cool dad.
We can always just be like gender ambiguous or something.
Yeah, I mean we're not gender binary. This is 2018.
Yeah, it's 2018.
Yeah. We're just we're I don't know where to go with this metaphor, but
there's some sort of.
I liked your way of saying it's the catalyst.
Yes. Yeah. There's some funny quip that is associated with this conversation.
Yeah, no, it's I feel like that was the start of it in a way, and then what was the next thing? The Artist Decoded show after the low show. You were in the first the low show at Dream Factory, and then.
Yeah.
And then the Artist Decoded show was before that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it was all.
I think your show is much more successful than my show.
It's not a competition, my guy.
No, I mean not in terms of like turnout necessarily,
well,
but just
too,
in terms of execution.
Well, yeah,
I did not know what I was doing.
I'm not competitive in any way, but like, yeah, it was better turnout, like more successful monetarily.
I'm not competitive anyway, but let me just state that.
No, these are just facts, you know. It's like, you know, interpret it how you want.
That's so funny.
No.
I think it's pretty surreal, you know, moving forward on this, but you know, now that we're in the space and you know we're at No Wave right now recording this, and you know, there's Steve Kim's work on the wall, but just the idea of, I don't know, we didn't really even intend for this to happen. It just kind of occurred.
Accidents. It was like a series of accidents and missteps, kind of. When we met each other, and then I moved out from New York, and you invited your buddy over to the house, or your buddy Mark, who we ended up starting this thing with. You know, that was all an accident, and then we got in contact with the people who ran this building, and they essentially were a big part of like even opening our eyes up to the idea of having an actual space, right? Because I feel like we had talked for a couple months about how Artist Decoded and Low could kind of merge in a weird way, but it was unclear as to what that meant. And then when this happened, it just seemed like that was the opportunity to do something, you know? Yeah. It's kind of like Into the Unknown, which is like the philosophy in general. It's like continuously breaking new ground is the philosophy of No Wave in a way, you know? Mm-hmm. Like try to be as fearless as possible in the face of new opportunities, but...
Well, so let's take it not a little step back, but maybe like a major step back. Because I mean, I know your origin story and how like when you were 14, you worked professionally as an illustrator and that whole thing. But maybe if you can talk about that a little bit just for people listening.
Oh, sure. So both my parents are artists. My mom does like large, like life-size sculptures with organic materials. My dad is like an illustrator all the way back from the 80s. He did like movie posters and album covers and things like that. And now he paints more museum-based work and stuff like that. So I just grew up in that kind of household and started illustrating for Costco, doing some jobs that my dad turned down so I could save up money and so I could go to music school, which I didn't end up doing. I wanted to go to Berkeley.
How much did you get? Sorry, how much did you get paid for those Costco jobs at that time?
A lot for a kid my age. Like, I think when I moved out to LA when I was 18, I had just gotten off a Costco job, and it was like for the nativity scenes or something. I think it was like I got like $7,000 or something like that, which is a lot of money for a kid at that time. It seemed like to me. So I had, it was just designing like a nutcracker or something like, or doing a bunch of sketches for the yearly nativity scene. I think I did the nativity scene with my dad for Costco like 3 years in a row from like 15 to 18 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I moved out. I was doing film and stuff back then too. And then when I got to graduate high school, I realized my grades were so bad that it was going to be hard for me to get into high school. So I started shopping around my portfolio.
You mean to get into college?
Get into college, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to go to college. That was a big thing too. Is like I was trying my best to not have to go to college, because by that time, like even the idea of music school seemed like horrible to me.
Yeah. Whenever you tell me about whenever you talk about your grades in high school, mm-hmm. and also, I mean, I've known you for a long time now. Well, I mean, it seems like a really long time. It seems like I've known you for like 1,000 years.
Yeah, flight hours. We put in the hours together for sure.
Yeah. But when you tell me about, you not getting very good grades in high school, I kind of get surprised because you have a very adaptable mind.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, and like so much about the art world and like films, and you're very cultured in ways,
Oh, thank you.
So I don't know. I think that just surprises me.
Well,
do you think that's because of interest? Like you just were not interested in the subjects that were being taught in school?
I'm sure, but like I guess the thing is too. I think like school's an interesting thing because I've always found it kind of irritating when people are like, oh yeah, I did horrible in school because like, I was just too smart for school, I never felt like I was too smart for school. I just think that
you're too cool for school.
Well, obviously. Obviously. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of like, I would show up with a leather jacket and a cigarettes rolled up into the sleeve, my short sleeves, and like that didn't do too well with the principal or the teachers. I think that was what it was.
Are you just talking about Greece?
I'm talking about Greece. Yeah. They got tired of me just
Listen,
going up
Travolta.
and banging the jukebox and it just starting playing. Yeah. But I think what it is I'm sure it's interesting. I think they need to. I was just not good at school. I think school is the thing you can be good at. Like you can be good at knowing exactly what you need to do to function in that capacity and function in that system. And if you're not good at functioning in that system, then you're just not good at it. Like I don't think it has a direct correlation to intelligence or anything like that. It's like more like you can see the system and you can exist in the system, or you can't see the system or and fail, or you can see the system and not be interested in it. And I think I was somewhere in all those places. I'm just not good at school. Like I was not good at getting homework done on time because I'd get distracted or, I'd want to do other things. And I guess it was an interest thing, but it was also like I wanted to be good at school. What kind of grades did you get? I had to take algebra twice because I failed it. Like I got an F. Like I would say, I don't know, maybe sub 2.0, like bad. Like I would do really good in writing and art classes. I got a D in my art class. I did AP art. I got a 5 on the test, which is the perfect score, but my teacher gave me a D, and I'm still trying to figure out why he did that.
You're mulling over it till this day.
I mean, it's always been. It was actually a controversial thing because like
it's probably more of a reflection on of himself and his thoughts on, or herself and her thoughts on.
Well, it was a weird thing because my dad got really, really pissed about it, and he went and had a conversation with him. And the guy said he's going through all this stuff with his family and stuff, and I guess he took it out on me for some reason. But it was weird. There's politics in school. There's all kinds of things that you need to know it's like a little microcosm of the world. Like, and you can learn how to function within it and do exactly as you're supposed to do to succeed, and then go on to the next school where you need to work within that system. It's more about like understanding how you can fit in a system, and I was just not good at fitting in the system.
Well, it sounds like you were uninterested in the system.
Yeah, but I don't even know if that's honestly true. Like, I really tried to be good for a while, but I just couldn't. The same reason why I feel like I'm a shitty illustrator, you know? Like, you can have all the skill set you need to be good at facilitating the need of the client or whatever, but it's something about the willpower, all those things. It's like, it's a skill.
That's exactly like the same conversation that we were having the other day about commercial photography. I mean, it's essentially the same thing. It's like illustrating, you're generally working with like commercial clients or something. And then with, photography that's commercial, it's the same. It's one and the same. It's just different skill sets.
Yeah.
And I felt like because of my approach and my thoughts on myself as a person and art, I was not very good at fitting in that system of like fulfilling the client's needs. And I mean, now I'm more attuned to it. And I think I understand the purpose of it. It's like, in order for me to facilitate my personal work or what I would like to do personally in general, not even just personal work, but just like whatever I like to do in my personal life, right?
Yeah.
You need money.
Sure.
So you do the commercial job to get money to fulfill the client's need to, so that you can live, essentially.
Yeah. I suppose it's a matter of incentivizing, it's like, if your big incentive is money and you like solving problems and getting that kind of like pat on the back from the client, that's a perfect incentive for someone who can be that kind of guy and work in that kind of scenario. And if your main incentive is just like accumulating knowledge and reaching these kind of like self-imposed like new goalposts, then you're kind of more better served being like say a fine artist versus an illustrator, where you make the rules and you learn about through discovery versus like solving specific problems. I mean, that's a different kind of calling, maybe, So it's like a
where do you fall on that spectrum?
Fine artist for sure. Fine artist,
but you're really good with clients too. Well, I actually, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I learned a lot from you from working with different clients, because I'm generally the person who's like, no, fuck that. I don't want to do that. Right. And you're like, well, you should probably think of it this way. And then I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. And I'm glad that I talked to you about it.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I feel the opposite, because like, I feel like I'm always the fuck no guy. And you're always like, well, maybe. Don't you think that? Like, when people come in, they're like, oh, I want to do this here. And I'm like, fuck no. And you're like, well, maybe we should hear him out. And I'm like, all right.
Well, no, I think you're like, when we're in the project, I think you're the one that can find the silver lining or figure out, your how to equalize, whatever the situation is. But I think in the introductory stage, I'm more of the optimistic one about wanting to work or with someone or, but like when you're actually in the shit, then you're the one that equalizes the, what's it called? The negative characteristics of that situation.
Sure. Right. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think of always, more than anything, I've tried to develop myself through just probably self-defense mechanism of like trying to become more of a strategist, to like develop myself as a strategist. So learning, because I've been in so many different fields by this time in my life, because I think I got started young, and instead of going to college, I did like more of like an apprenticeship like work thing. Like, I was in all these different fields from a very young age. You kind of learn not only like the technical skills of it, but the communication skills of like dealing with egos and like understanding people and reading people and then strategizing how everybody can get what they want out of an instance. Because what you realize like in all these creative fields is really what you're butting up against is people who have got egos, or people who they have their own visions and sometimes they'll just dig their heels in just to for a will to power kind of thing, right? So it's like kind of like, is it better to bend so you won't break? Is it better to use the momentum and leverage for your own benefit? Like, just like taking everything you can from the things you've learned from these different fields, and like kind of seeing what the best way to hew a path for your vision. And if you can make it appear that your vision is their vision, then at the end of the day, it's still your vision, or whatever the project suits the project best by, like paring your own ego down to whatever services the project. And if it's a good project, everybody wins. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that philosophy,
Yeah.
So if you go into it that way versus like the first idea is best idea, which a lot of people enter a job with, that's so toxic, because like you will butt into all kinds of walls, because usually the first idea isn't the best idea. You know, that's why people sketch shit out. That's why people do things over and over and over again, because they're trying to figure something out. If they just let the project be the end goal and the best possible way to get to that is the best thing, then you become adaptable, and that's the best strategy.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you ever thought about our creative partnership and why that works or why that continues to work?
I think about it a lot, all the time.
Aw.
Yeah, in a way, like, you know, I just...
I'm totally gonna keep that part. Anyways, go on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's always a mystery as to why certain things, like certain combinations of personalities and backgrounds, like are effective. You know, and I think ours is effective because there's certain gaps and holes that are filled by the other person. For those listening at home, I just winked. Winked from across the table.
I was thinking, are you going to react to that gaps and holes thing, or am I just going to let this go on?
Let's just say about we okay, like strike that from the record. Certain blind spots that the other person has covered, right? So in that situation, and there seems to be a level of like the philosophy I was just discussing, like the project-based thing. Like at the end of it, like, there's a healthy ego between both of us, which you need to get anything done, you know, to see the importance of anything you're doing. You need to have a certain healthy level of ego, but then also the be able to be detached from your own ego to get to the end product. And I think we've both had to take back seats to each other at certain instances in order to facilitate that. And I think that's healthy in any relationship, whether it be like in your interpersonal relationships or business relationships. It's always good to see the greater picture, you know? And I think that's from the beginning, that's the way it's always been, you know? So we don't usually get in fights. Yeah. Like we don't get in fights. We have debates about like, you're like, oh, I don't like this. And you're like, oh, why is that? And I'm like, I don't like this. And you're like, why don't you like this? And then we figure out why those things are. And then I think it's just communication is good. And there's nothing like that I can say that will make you mad or vice versa, you know? It's like, it's not like it's just a healthy partnership in that way. So I think that's when the communication and egos are in check, then the product is better, you know? And that's just, I think that's how it's always been, you know?
For sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, especially among, I mean, I guess it's just like a humanistic sort of thing, but I was going to say, especially among artists, you know, there's that sort of will to power, or that, you know, that sense of ego, because it is, you know, you're putting your name on it at the end of the day. It's like, oh, this is my project or whatever. But I mean, this kind of goes back in the part of, like, I think of this partnership as I'm like second in command, you're first in command. And I think that's
yes, yes.
No, but I think that that's a good thing to realize, you know, to be like the president, the vice president, and to realize the roles there, you know, because I don't know. I mean, it was just kind of a good thing for me to realize for myself, because I've always wanted to be in that first position. You know, like even among, like, I'll bring it back to when I was skateboarding among my friends and stuff. And, you know, this is just kind of like a rudimentary example, but I would always surround myself with people that I was a little bit better than, which I think my skateboarding suffered and my educational process suffered because of that. But I feel like with No Wave, I've relinquished that to where I try to surround myself with people that I feel are greater than me in some respects, you know, or greater minds, you know. And I know I contribute in a lot of ways. It's not like I'm a complete idiot. I mean, I am a complete idiot in certain ways, but I think that's just me being a goofy bastard, basically.
No, I mean, that's an incredibly humble thing to say, and I don't. I appreciate it. I don't know how, you know, how true it is, but I think that it's an important philosophy to have on both sides, you know. Again, like, you know, it's like we surround ourselves with the best possible people, because the idea is, like, you know, all like everybody rises together, you know, like we can all help each other, because I also think there's been a shift in the consciousness of in our fields, you know, like where everything was ultra competitive. Like there was this like this illusion that like you needed to piss on all your property and this is my corner of this space, you know, and all that stuff. And that was a way because people are afraid of losing power, you know. But now I think there is this, maybe because of the internet, maybe because of open collaboration, but like you realize that like the things I'm good at are kind of specialized, and things you're good at are specialized, but together we're a much greater force. And the more talented people we have on board, the more we can just keep on lifting each other and supporting, you know. So the higher heights we get based on each other's like advantages, just natural advantages, the better we are as a whole, you know. So yeah, I don't know. I think like for you and me, you have a natural producer element to you that I don't possess. It's like the thing, like I wasn't too smart for school. I was just not good at school. Like I'm not good at certain things, and you're very good at these, like kind of like figuring out how to like maneuver through this production standpoint where I lack those skills, and maybe I have a little bit more experience at this other thing. So, you know, this, like, again, we fill each other's gaps, you know what I mean?
Oh Lord.
But no, that was like I'm not sure how to respond to your statement earlier because I found it to be incredibly humble.
I mean, I think it's just me realizing and navigating life too, because, you know, as a kid, I mean, it's that whole thing. It's like I always wanted to be, and this comes from like being an only child, I think, and you know, like I felt like I always wanted to be like the person that was at the advantage, you know, or I wanted to. I mean, the whole example is skateboarding. It's like I wanted to be the person that was the best out of my friends,
right?
But then I realized that I stunted my growth because I would only hang out with people that are a little bit. They weren't as good at skateboarding as I was,
right?
You know?
Right.
But
I know what you're saying. You're a competitive guy by nature, which I've seen. So you need healthy competition in order to push yourself to your own higher levels, because you're competitive with yourself more than anything. And in order to do that, you need to have someone else pushing you, right?
Yeah.
So that's you know.
But I think everyone needs that.
Yeah, but not everybody really wants that. Like some people want the perception from other people to be seen as greater than, and some people have their own goalposts that they want to reach because they feel fulfillment, you know. There's different kinds of ways to like feel valuable in culture, you know. And I think fulfillment is one way, and a lot of the artists' joy comes from fulfillment, you know, versus like happiness in the face of other people's respect, you know, or something like that. So I think that's an important thing to have, like your own personal goalpost and your own personal kind of push, you know?
Yeah. So maneuvering in a slightly different way, but so when I first started Artists Decoded, I mean, now this is going to be the 100th episode, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Congratulations, man.
It's nuts.
It's
nuts. But thanks, man. But you know, I was just thinking about it, and in the beginning, I was thinking about art movement and how do you push and contribute to the art movement,
right?
And how do you bring people together in this way that, you know, through conversation, it's an organic way to connect with people, and it's also a way to help other people navigate their own careers and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then, which brought us to creating No Wave, which is an extension of that. Mm-hmm. And I think about that in terms of purpose, and I forget who it was, but I heard this quote about, you know, I forget who said this. It was about don't think about how you can lead the happiest life, mm-hmm. but think about how you can lead a life with purpose.
Right.
The most purposeful life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think, you know, reflecting for the past 3 years, it seems like I've been on that same trajectory, but where I'm trying to get at is like, why did you want to contribute to that art movement and bringing people together? Because I want to do that as well. And
right.
For some reason, me and you both want to do that in a way, but mm-hmm. I don't know if we've consciously had the conversation of like, you know, why are we contributing to that art movement?
Interesting. I agree with you about having a more purpose-driven life versus a happiness-driven life, because I've always been skeptical of the pursuit of happiness. It was always kind of strange. Like, your life is just your life, and you punctuate it by moments of joy or sadness, or based on events in your life that can create those things. But to try to like go for that is kind of odd to me. Like, the purpose thing makes more sense because there's so many things in the world that should concern you, and you should want to, diminish the amount of suffering in the world around you and only do better things for the world while you exist, right? That's what really gives you some kind of inner sense of pride or something, so that by the end of your life, you hadn't just like caused more pollution and just putting more shit in a river somewhere, and like that's all you've done while you were existing. You almost have a responsibility to enter the world, try to do your best to make it a little bit better before time's up. And I think the art thing was just that was just the most obvious thing for me, because I have these gifts and advantages being as I was born into the family I was born into, with a certain kind of support and a certain kind of just like in the art world. So that just seemed like the most obvious strategy and route for me from the get-go, like the path was kind of paved for me before I was born, and so I came into it, and I just happened to be the right personality to take the torch from my parents, who have already kind of started the journey. So for me, it was just like an obvious thing, and that my philosophy always has been more art driven ever since I was a kid. So this was just the best way for me to do my part,
But have you always been a person to bring people together?
I think so. I mean, I've always tried to, like, because something you just notice as a natural part of the process is, for me, the most exciting things versus I think a lot of artists are really getting a certain kind of value out of having something in their mind's eye and then perfectly executing it. Like, that's a sign of real skill and mastery. Whereas I've always been more interested in having certain things shown to you or learning. Like, I was always more of the pursuit of learning and accumulating knowledge, so like anytime someone can give me an idea that I didn't have before, or new plane of vision that was previously unknown to me, that's really what drives me, So having more people expand this like big synaptic kind of mass intelligence is more interesting to me. Better ideas come from some guy who lived a totally different life than me. Like, I want to understand that. That's what's fascinating. So getting these people together with different backgrounds makes you a more interesting person, because now you have these other ideas and backgrounds to draw from.
Yeah, so it's like the pursuit of knowledge.
It's a pursuit of knowledge, and just you want to understand things. Like, that's what empathy comes from, is wanting to understand people. And I think the best artists are the most empathetic people, because they want to understand and teach and be taught, So just getting people together to do that is where you can learn your most in the shortest amount of time. And then by developing a group, then you can like create this kind of virus of ideas and things. And that's what I think is the best strategy for making the world a better place. And it's just like a natural thing if you're open to that idea and not just wanting to domineer everything from your own ego, So,
yeah,
long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
But I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but
so then who would be some of the most successful artists in that respect? If you can name a couple.
I mean, like, there's been movements throughout history, whether it be like art movements or political movements or
I guess it's hard to kind of
I would have
talk
to
about semantics.
I'd have to think about it. I mean, there's you can think of like countless numbers of people. I mean, like, I was really, really into the post-punk movement. I got a lot of inspiration from that. I got a lot from film movements or like political movements, or just the collecting of people together in a way that, like, people say like like-minded individuals, but I think it's people who are dissatisfied with something and they want to change something, so they come together with that joint kind of dissatisfaction and they find a way to solve that problem, and then more people to come together because they're changing something, and that's what creates this movement, like an actual movement, like momentum of people moving a direction. And I think there's countless times that's happened. It's just, but it always happens with a group of people, not just one person does it. Maybe it's like easier to sum it up in history books that way, with like this.
Well, I think one person gets known for it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Andy Warhol gets known for that movement, and everyone talks about Andy Warhol.
Yeah, there's lots of guys who had similar ideas to him too, that maybe weren't as monetarily successful or wasn't so profitable to other people, but like, those are ideas that have existed, So yeah, he was just the guy who is written about so people remember him, and he did a certain thing that kind of changed the art world for maybe positive and negative, but it was because he had a lot of people around him doing that too. Mm-hmm. So it just makes sense that you'd want to do this with a lot of other people.
Yeah. But even we were talking before, and we were talking about, I think you said I came up with the idea for No Wave 10 years prior, or
True.
If not longer than that, right?
Right.
Like in high school or something.
Well, yeah, before, okay, let me think about this for a second. Okay, so the first part of my adult career, like I had done, when I was 18, I got out of high school and went to work with Charlie White, who's I was essentially his apprentice for a couple years. He was one of my heroes. He was a big illustrator in the 70s, and he was like a pioneer of the airbrush movement and did all these, he did the first Star Wars poster with Drew Struzan, and he started this company called Olio, which is kind of like a prototype for No Wave in a way, where it was like the idea of a collective of people, like I've always liked the idea of a collective of people because I come from being in bands since I was a kid. And I noticed, having been in a band for basically my whole life, from like when I was 15 to 23 or 24, I've always been in different bands and with different levels of success and failure. And what I noticed about the art world versus the music world is that there was a fundamental lack of like a community in the art world, like from the painting world. I don't want to say all art, but visual art world. Like in the world that I was in, it was like a lonely thing. You'd go in your studio and you'd work on your own thing for months or whatever, and then you have your show. You come out, people come and like see it, and they have all this like you're working towards that one moment by yourself, And then as a band, you're constantly in the state of responding to other people. And like it's a form of like composition, interpretation, and reaction in the moment, At least the kind of music I was playing was very much that. And I always saw that there was like a way to merge those two worlds, or create an overlap between that philosophy and the art philosophy, which are very, very fundamentally different. They're both creative mediums, but the community and culture is totally different. But it seemed like there should be more overlap there, and so I've always thought, like when my good friend Nick Tuttle and I had tried to workshop an idea like this that was more like sound based, like what we're doing with No Wave, but with like musicians and like not a record label. But because we'd have like a space with community outreach and like space for people to record, perform, and also do art and things like that. And then just as a fundamental byproduct of that, all of a sudden you have a creative team that can function as an agency just because it makes sense that all those people together are that, So, and then when the No Wave thing came up, like when you and I like kind of started this whole thing, it's basically just that same thing, but in a different flavor, Same kind of like level of like problem solving,
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's really hard you just need the right time, place, and ingredients to make it happen. And this is the time it worked.
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to get at too is, I think about, I guess this is also, a lot of the meanings for these conversations, it's like the things that we thought of in the past and the things that we've encountered from the past, does that all accumulate and then make us come to that eventual point, or has that always existed within us, and then eventually, because of all of this amalgamation of like different occurrences and events, basically, has it always been within us and then eventually we reach that point, or is it because of all these experiences that we eventually reach that point. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, it's like I feel like your intention is what gives you the direction. Like, because I had this intention since I was young, my life has been formed around that. So you become, like, as you focus your attention towards a specific directive, more opportunities become available because you notice them in that line of sight.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, I've always wanted this. So as opportunities came up that I've seen, I'm more often able to even see those to jump on them.
Yeah.
Because, like, oh, this makes sense to me. I've always wanted to do this. This is why I want to do this. So you're constantly just directing that energy toward, like, in this given direction.
Yeah.
So I think it's always been there, and it's here now because you just have always wanted that. You know, it's like the follow your bliss thing, like the whole Joseph Campbell thing. You know, it just happened, or like intention based manifestation, all that stuff that's kind of woo woo. It all just is logical as well. You know, it's like you want something, so you see those things that cross your path that you want, and you continuously follow those things.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think those things can adapt and change as you move forward on life, and, you know, depending on your needs, and, you know, if you have a family, and then, you know, there's things that take greater priority, and you realize that, you know, essentially time is of the essence, right? Yeah. But I guess I never, you know, even ever since I was a kid, the goal for me was never to, like, accumulate money, you know? And I think it's hard for me to understand people that that's the primary objective, is to get money or whatever, although, you know, you need money to survive, right?
Right.
But I don't know. I guess we're all just trying to figure out this mysterious, fucked up life as a human meat suit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. But, like, I think it's like everything is based on incentives, you know, and, you know, a lot of that is ingrained in you when you're a kid. You know, I think a lot of people who grew up rich or grew up with money, and that's like the source of pride and you know, like a certain kind of level of in society, they see that as an important measuring tool, you know. Whereas, like, I can't speak for you so much because I didn't grow up in your household, but for me, the measuring stick was always how many of your peers respected you and what you're doing, and is it healthy for the ecosystem that you're in, you know? Like, my family always had really interesting people coming through the house, and I always wanted to be around interesting people, and hopefully, as a byproduct, be an interesting person, you know? So that was always what I wanted out of life. It's a big part of what we talk about a lot, is the currency of respect, and, like, what you do being something that it's like almost a self-regulating system. When you have people and they respect you, in your field, they respect you because you've done something of value.
Yeah.
And the more people realize that, you feel like you're on the right track. And some people, you know, the more money they accumulate, you know, that's their measuring stick.
Yeah, I never had that as a kid. I mean, my parents they're pretty much like just, well, I mean, my dad's different than my mom, but my mom's always been a 9-to-5-er, right, you know, working in HR a majority of her life. But I wouldn't say that I had any interesting people coming into the house and educating me on anything, really, to be honest. I think a majority of my education came from, or at least creative education came from, the films I would watch as a kid.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Same for me. Like, my dad, that's how my dad taught me composition, was the Akira Kurosawa movies. But I think, I don't mean to sidetrack this very much, but I'm just thinking about my childhood now, and I think the biggest thing, even more than that, was the thing I took from my childhood is the amount of work my parents did in the pursuit of their passion. Like, they were just constantly working, and the most amazing thing to me was, like, I had never in my life felt like I was in want of anything, like want of attention from my parents, even though they worked constantly. They worked at home, and anytime I needed help with anything or wanted to go, like, play sports or everything, my parents always did that 100% of the time. And my dad, just only as I've gotten older did I realize too, is like my dad would just stay up for 3 straight days while after I went to sleep to make up that time on his deadlines. And that affected me more than anything, that like is like pure selflessness in a way that like I never felt in need of any love from my parents, and they, in their pursuit of their passion, never waned at all. So they did whatever they had to do to facilitate both those things without complaining about it at all. So it made it like it made me realize a couple things, that the art world, the life of art is incredibly difficult, but it's incredibly fulfilling in the sense of like the respect and how loved these people are throughout their whole lives, and that you can obtain both success and be a good father and be a good artist and be a great mother and all these things at the same time. It just is really difficult to do, and kind of like those parts of being an artist are kind of undersung. But I think there's also there's this illusion that you can't be a good person if you're a great artist, and I think that's total bullshit.
Is there that illusion?
I think so. If you like look at all the films,
look at the people in the past.
Yeah, look at all
Lucian Freud.
Yeah, all the films. Yeah, everybody. Like there's this illusion of like this fantasy of being an artist, because everybody wants to be an artist at one time in their life, I feel like, because there's this illusion of like it's a life without rules in a way. You don't have to you can, like, there's all these horrible people who get away with all this shit because they're like creative geniuses, quote unquote, and people are only starting to I
think that conversation's changing a lot.
It is, like, but only in the last couple of years,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's crazy. Like, and artists should be, held accountable to be also good people. But, that's only a new idea.
Yeah.
A lot of these artists have been having their asses covered for them because they were so brilliant and they could make other people money because of their brilliance, And it's just something I learned from my parents too. That's like, that was never a thing. Like you're always, the point of being an artist is to enrich the culture, not take advantage of the culture,
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, that was a tangent, but I wanted to give a shout out to mom and dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The more that I hang out, I've only hung out with your dad twice, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But the more that I have conversations with your dad, the more that I realize how similar you are to your dad.
I know that's a good thing. I want to be my mom and dad, really.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. That's a really good thing. They're incredible people, both your mom and your dad. I've had more conversations with your dad than I have with your mom. Maybe it's because, of his background with martial arts, and
he's a very outgoing guy.
Yeah, we can relate on that. Yeah. And it's kind of like me when I talk to your dad, I kind of think like I'm talking to you in a way too.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what everybody says. Yeah.
But it's great. But I also see that when you were talking about, how hard he was working to facilitate income, and also, working hard at his craft.
Mm-hmm.
I see that within you.
I appreciate it.
I think, I don't know. Sometimes I think about like hard work and your dedication to hard work, and I'm like, fuck, like I wish I could. I feel like I'm trying to catch up to that in a way.
No, it just comes down to like,
because you're willing to lose sleep over finishing up a painting or something like that. And with me and editing photos, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give myself like 2 hours to edit these photos. If I can't do it within these 2 hours, I'm going to come back to it tomorrow. But I don't know. I mean, it's not that I don't want to strive for those things. It just, I think I just approach it in like different ways, Well,
there's good and bad to both those things. Like, basically what we both have is like, well, what we try to have, I think, is integrity, which is the most important thing. But the thing I've noticed in me, and it's in both my parents too, but they sacrifice their health for these projects, and I don't necessarily think that's the best. There should be a good balance. Like I go in these waves of like being really, really healthy and then getting so tied up in these projects, and the projects are the most important thing, that my health becomes sidetracked, And in order to be the best possible vehicle for some of these ideas, you need to be the most well-tuned vehicle as well. So that's actually part of what I learned on when I did my honeymoon this last week. It was the first vacation I've really felt like I've ever had in my life that didn't have something to do with family or work or something. It was just like purely for me and my wife. And it was really interesting in a way, because I was able to accumulate data because I was actually well rested, and things started bubbling over again, And that's really important. It's really important to set aside to keep your life as healthy as possible.
Yeah.
So you can continuously.
Well, I think
so
you
it's
need to just
longevity.
travel more in general.
Yeah, I would love to, but like, and I've got everything is intention based, So like, I have to like figure out a way to recontextualize stuff for myself. You know, it's one thing to know it, and there's another thing to know it. Like, oh, I need to do. Like, I know I need to do these things, but it's like there's something that needs to happen too.
Yeah. Well, you kind of give me some checks and balances too, because I think my mindset's always like, oh, when can I travel next?
Oh, when's Justin going out of town? Can I go out of town too?
No, but I mean, I think, it's like there's a part of me where, so for instance, when I saw that movie Into the Wild, I was like, I'm going to move to Alaska and
I'm going to go out and kill myself on plants that I don't understand.
Oh, I think I've read something about these mushrooms. Yeah. Oh, fuck it.
Yeah, don't get too inspired by that movie, man.
Yeah. Is it the brown mushrooms or the white mushrooms that are bad for you? Fuck, I mean both. But no, but I think, I saw that movie when I was early 20s, maybe 21 or 22. Mm-hmm. Or 23, somewhere around there. But, and I think that, it resonates true with me in terms of always wanting to get adventures, whether that be adventures within, like I become easily bored.
Right.
But I also become easily bored of the travel too. If I'm traveling too long, then I'm like, oh shit, I need to be going back. So there's like those checks and balances, right?
Right.
But, I don't know, being around you sometimes it reminds me of priorities and checks and balances and things of that nature.
Same.
I think, yeah.
Same with me.
What do you mean?
I mean that this like you always say that I need to like take more time off for myself, and I'm always like, fuck that. Like, well, how's this? All this stuff's not going to get done on its own, But that's a recontextualizing thing. Like I was saying, like like you need to. It's one thing to know it, and there's another thing to know it.
Yeah.
And so like, and only giving yourself the time to actually reflect can you put into action these things that you know or you've been told,
Yeah.
So no, that's important too. And you come back stronger from it too, because you need to have that time to process. And I've always, maybe it's a skill if you want to call it a skill, I don't know, you've developed as like you process really quickly and in the moment all the time. Maybe it's a music thing, but then the slow process of kind of accumulating and processing data is important. But it's a different sort of mindset, that you can only have if you give yourself time without some kind of self-imposed deadline, I think you're good at that too. So it's good. I'm also equally bored. That's the thing. That's why I'm constantly doing projects that are really, really challenging,
Yeah. I feel like if I know, even with films, like when I watch films, if I know what's going to occur within the film, it could just be a very simple story, even a good filmmaker that I recently watched, the Florida Project.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's great. Amazing filmmaker.
Yeah. Sean Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, even kind of like comparing the two with life and the way that, you watch that film and it's essentially about something so mundane, right? But there's so many little nuances to the way that he crafts a film. It's kind of, that same ideology and that same approach to life is the way that I like to think of life too. It's like if I'm doing the same thing, if I'm just sitting here looking at my email and then waiting to respond to someone, I get extremely bored of that. And sometimes and yeah, it's necessary sometimes, but I always want life to have like sprinkles, it's like sprinkles of like new ideas and new knowledge and new projects. And I guess that's kind of the way that we've been crafting our lives with No Wave and being able to explore, and hopefully, we've been finding like some monetary benefit off of it, but we're in no position saying that we're like swimming in money like like in Scrooge McDuck or something.
No.
You know?
No. Well, maybe you're not. You better check those books.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but you actually bring up an interesting point that I've been thinking about a lot too. And actually going back to your...
About Scrooge McDuck?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he never wears pants around all those kids. He's a perv. He's disgusting. Not someone to look up to.
But yet so clean.
So clean. But no, like it goes back to the first part of our conversation where we're talking about why do you think the partnership works and all those things. I think it's like one of my favorite philosophers is Musashi, and he has a book called The Book of Five Rings, right? And in it, he talks about like learning how to do certain things by doing other things, and like seeing patterns and how everything kind of overlaps with each other, creates like these fugue states, like the other book we were talking about.
Yeah,
but
Gödel, Escher, Bach.
Gödel, Escher, Bach, right? Where everything is like braided in a sense, like everything is like reiterations of these other things. Mm-hmm. And being a multidisciplinarian person, both of us, like music, photo, all this other production stuff, martial arts, all these things. I've done martial arts, music, and art, and this stuff, you know, and film, and both done film and stuff like that. That you learn certain different things from these different disciplines. Like I've learned how to paint better by analyzing music and film, like the spontaneous aspect of jazz or post-punk music, and films by like Terrence Malick, where like his philosophy of like doing all this B-roll of like beautiful like filmic cinematic shots, that those are the things that stick in your mind, and those are the unplanned parts that he edits the film around and works in the moment. And then that is what is his trademark, is all those things that feel unscripted, you know, and those elements you can work into your other craft, you know, the spontaneous element, the adventurous element, the parts of the unknown, being kind of well acclimated to experience those things without discomfort, you know. And I think that you have that thing, and I have that thing, or at least that drive for those kind of things and that learning process. And I think that seems to be a cornerstone of the whole thing as well, you know, learning from, because you have this thing that I'm unaware of, and maybe I have certain things that you were unaware of, that's where the interest keeps on building, you know. Mm-hmm. And it becomes like a more between us, we have a larger intelligence than us as individuals. Yeah. I don't know if that made any more sense, but I thought about it when you were saying that. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's good. It's good to like learn, so you can reshift that those skills into a craft that maybe is not obvious use of those skills. You know. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. Sometimes, I think about those things, and I also think about. I know we're just kind of on the precipice of No Wave and, our career paths together.
Here, we've only been around for a year and a half, not even a year and a half now.
Yeah, so I kind of have to put that into perspective. But I always just think about, when does this, like monetarily, when does all of this pay off, I mean, it does in a respect, but it's not like we're in positions where we never have to worry about money ever again.
I don't know if we'll ever have that, I mean, not really. Like, I mean, we've got it really good. Like, I don't want to be someone who's like
unappreciative.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that.
No,
either.
I know. But that's always kind of the struggle, right? Like, my parents were like really doing really well in the 80s and everything. And, as, when I was a kid, they had a rare situation where they were doing really well, and then the markets changed and stuff, and they're struggling more now than they were before, and up and down and up and down, and the guy who I work for, he's at the later stage of his life, and he goes in and out of success all the time, and it's one of those things that's like, I don't know, we are able to pay our bills and have an interesting life and do all these interesting things, and everything costs something. Like, we are not ever having to worry about money is something I've given up to pursue an interesting life. We do a lot of things that people would only dream of having access to,
Yeah.
And we have that, and it has nothing to do with money,
That's true.
So
no, it's, yeah.
Yeah, like
I guess yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I don't mean to cut
Oh,
you off.
no. I was going to say that, yeah, I guess, yeah, you're right. Everything does cost something. I mean, easily me or you could go and work for a tech company and make $150,000 a year, doing sales for a tech company. Cause I think that's like the average is like 150 or something like that, somewhere in that range. But that costs something as well. It's your time. And I guess at the end of the day, it's like, how much you value your time or what you want to contribute to. And it's not that I'm unsatisfied with the path that I've chose in life, but I just realize the benefits of having a large source of income or a large source of money to be able to be like, oh, okay, then I could just, whatever, I can do all of these more artistic things or, because it just makes it easier. Right. And we're approaching that. I feel that, and I've expressed to you that I've felt that, but it's these things that I'm conscious of and understanding that we are in the era of technology.
Of course. No, you're right. And I don't think that, I think it's okay not being satisfied. I mean, that's what gives the drive. I don't know if I'll ever be truly satisfied with where I'm at in my creative path or my career or anything. Even if like next year we're making millions of dollars, there's always a higher height to what that gets you. It's like, it's like we sacrifice stability to do these things, right? We do these shows so we can pay for these other things that are more about innovation. We choose to do these things, We could do everything in pursuit of money and stability and then sacrifice our own creative practices, sacrifice our own visions to pander to a market that's already existing. There's lots of people that do that, and that's great. That's fine. I'm not down talking any of that. I will just, as a person, I will like wither, So we're just after different things, and at the cost of stability, you get to lead a life worth living, in my opinion, for the time being. But of course, as you reach a different level, like I'm wealthy compared to what I thought good money was when I was 18. I'm like beyond wealthy. Like I get to live in a house in a nice neighborhood with a wife and dog, and only do creative things for a living. That's an incredible wealth to 95% of the population of Earth. We live in a time now we don't have to worry about heat. We don't have to worry about entertainment. We don't have to worry about where our food's coming from. And all we do is art all day. That's pretty fucking good. It's really, really good. So, but then there comes the point when, like you need more money to do bigger things and expand what you can do for more people and affect more people in a healthy way. So that's always the pursuit, is figuring out that balance. But it's always a risk. 100% of life as an artist, unless you've got a lot of money to start with, it's risk after risk after calculated risk. So
yeah.
Just is. That's the tax we pay for having this, where we are in our lives, So
yeah,
it's one of those things.
Yeah, I wonder if we're gonna look back at this episode in a couple of years and did you ever go back and listen to that episode 7?
I went back and listened to half of it, but I get a little. I get a little weird about that stuff, because I always think about, like, in the moment the conversation feels so good, and then when I go back and listen to it, it's weird. It's just kind of strange, Like I'm just not, because I always think like, oh man, I don't know if I articulated that very well. I don't know if I was to say it now, I would have had more time to think about it, and it's always in the moment, so I just always have to detach myself.
Yeah, so you
from
don't
it.
want to be self-conscious about what you said.
Yeah,
before.
And I am only because I think like, oh, I could have expressed that better, or like I come off as a dumbass or pretentious here, and I don't like putting myself through that,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I guess I'm actively putting myself through that.
Yeah, 100 times now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Crazy. I do go back and listen to the ones where I've interviewed other people, because I find those interesting. I like reliving those conversations.
Yeah,
but when I'm the one being asked questions, it's a little harder, I think,
Yeah, I mean, you're more aware of yourself and your experiences and your thoughts and understanding of yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. It's like it's not fun to see the holes in what you're saying, and you're like, oh, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it is. Maybe that's an ego thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting with, it's like me and you have accumulated 31 years of knowledge and data, right?
Yeah.
And yet we have to constantly strive to accumulate more knowledge and data. And, like even listening to like different conversations on different podcasts, and, you get those little gems of things that you probably already know, but for some reason that particular thing that they're talking about resonates with you. And, like, for instance, when I heard about Robert Rodriguez and him talking about El Mariachi and how he only created that film off of $7,000, and it kind of that sparked this sort of idea of resourcefulness within me, and which has kind of been like an overarching thing about like my career is resourcefulness,
right.
or creative resourcefulness. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is that we're constantly in search of the knowledge, and sometimes we already know the knowledge, but there has to be that thing that triggers it for us to realize something that we already have realized, but we're constantly trying to search for new knowledge or knowledge that is already known.
Yeah. That's just curiosity, right? Just like generally being curious about things. And sometimes it takes, like I said, that's the difference between knowing something and then knowing something. Like I can read something like, oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But then like something about like, maybe you've gone through a breakup, you got fucked over by one of your friends, something you did was failed. And then there's this new kind of flavor to your life that so you're more apt to take in the information in a more, I don't know, real way, like more potent way, Sometimes that comes with this age and experience, like you're more able to like understand your own filtration system to where things can really affect you,
Yeah.
And it's just like variables that aren't really up to you at a certain point,
Yeah.
Speaking of Robert Rodriguez really quick.
Spy Kids, great movie.
Great movie. Here, Spy Kids 2, the Shark Kid movie or whatever that was.
I personally like Spy Kids 3D. Was there even a Spy Kids 3D? They were probably all.
I feel like Sylvester Stallone was in that. I'm almost positive that is a thing. Yeah.
Wait, are you serious?
I'm serious, but I can't tell if I'm just making up that memory. Maybe I just directed a movie in my head right now.
Yeah. Spy Kids X Expendables.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. I like it. Spy Kids Triple X Expendables. Oh, hello. Oh, that's a movie nobody wants.
Yeah.
But when I was young with my sister, we made some movies very much inspired by Robert Rodriguez, and I've never really liked his movies. But he wrote a book called Rebel Without a Crew where he talked exactly about that, like making El Mariachi for $7,000. And he didn't have a dolly, so they used an old wheelchair, and like he just got the whatever camera he could and stuff like that. And I found that to be incredibly inspiring from a resourcefulness standpoint, like where like, yeah, fuck everything that he did by himself is what gave that flavor of that thing that no one else can duplicate, which is important, like an important thing to think about. Anyways, sidetrack. Good book. Check it out.
Yeah, I have wanted to watch, or I have wanted to read that book too. I'll probably listen to the audio version.
There you go.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Yeah. I mean, this is such an impromptu conversation, but is there anything else?
Well, I'd like to ask you some questions. How does it feel having your 100th episode almost in the can?
I mean, I don't know. I don't really have any. I don't know. I don't feel like an overarching sense of accomplishment. It's
an arbitrary number.
Kind of, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it feels good.
Yeah. Why? Why does it feel good? Like as a bookmark in time, like do you feel like you've learned something over the past 100 conversations, or you've had 100 conversations with a lot of them strangers, or with friends, conversations you usually wouldn't have. So how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, over 100 conversations, in the beginning, like I was trying to figure out just like the creative process and different people's creative processes, just to understand my own. And I still feel like that's the same case. It's a constant evolution and understanding of other people and empathizing with other people. And yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot. It made me feel way more at ease with what I'm doing as a creative and not as anxious, and gave me some sort of peace of mind to understand that, I think what I'm doing is a good thing, or like the reason why I'm doing it is it's more enforced.
Right. You're doing it for the right reasons or something.
Enforced.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Maybe there's no right way to do things. If you've had 100 conversations with 100 people and they've all got 100 different ways of doing things, maybe there's no right way to do it. Do you notice a lot of overlap in the people that you talk to as far as like philosophies, general philosophies, things like that? Is there something that you've seen as like a through line with people?
I want to say it's creative ignorance in a way.
Ignorance to creativity, or a creative way of implementing ignorance?
I guess that's hard to say. It's more so the sense of resilience, I think, or constantly, even though you might not get it right the first time or the second time or the third time, but being enough self-aware to where you can analyze your process, but also just constantly wanting to keep on going as well.
So you think it's work ethic and drive, maybe? Is that the common denominator with these people?
Work ethic, drive, community. I mean, having that like strong sense of community to be able to like talk to different people and bounce different ideas. And a lot of it, I think, is, if you want to constantly strive as a creative, to be able to surround yourself with people that friends and relationships and all of that help you further that career path along. And I guess that, that's like even my relationship with you, you're constantly, showing me different books or showing me different podcasts or, educating me about certain things I didn't know. And hopefully I do the same thing for you,
of course you do.
In certain ways.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I don't know. Life's so strange. It's hard we're always trying to figure out like how things work and, why we do certain things. And at least I am.
Would you consider yourself an explorer then? Like, is that what is interesting to you? Like exploring and finding new things, something new?
I think so. But it's hard for me to say. I feel like I have more questions than answers.
Of course. That's that. If you're honest with yourself, I feel like that is 100% of your life is that, because as soon as you get to the next level, you're like, oh, finally know that thing that I wanted to know. And now that I know that thing, now I just realize how idiotic I am in the face of all this unknown knowledge,
Yeah. I had this theory before about climbing a pyramid.
Okay.
So it's essentially like you accumulate all this knowledge and then eventually you get to that point of the pyramid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of the top of the pyramid. But I kind of think it's like the other way around. It's almost like a upside down pyramid where you think you have this idea and then you're constantly expanding out.
Interesting. Yeah, I had a similar idea, slightly different, maybe visual for it. It's like you met my friend Kenta? He was my roommate and good friend in
I don't think I have.
Oh yeah, he was my good friend in very creative guy, super talented guy in New York, and I met him also because he interviewed me for his magazine he had at the time, and I was talking. It was about time, like his the theme was time, and we were talking about it, and I was thinking about it, and it's like good being asked these questions because then you're forced to like create a visual in your mind about what these things mean. But I feel like as you get older, you are going up vertically in a tower, and as you look out on the landscape of things, the higher you get, the more you can see, and the more that you can see is beyond your vision, So the higher you get up, the more landscape you become aware of. When you're down on the ground, you're like, you can see only a little bit, but you get really comfortable with knowing that thing really well, and you have no idea about what's the expanses around you. And as you age, every day you're going up the tower a little bit more and realizing the vastness of things that you can't see, while also getting a generally large overview of the things you've already been through, you know. Based on that knowledge, you can kind of project into those distant places, but only to a certain extent, you know. That's what it feels like to me, just getting a higher viewpoint of the horizon day by day, you know, and just realizing that there's still a horizon. That means there's stuff beyond the horizon.
Yeah.
Similar.
That's some
to the
sort of
pyramid
metaphor
thing.
for heaven and Christianity somewhere in there.
I'm sure.
No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, yes. I mean, of course. Like that is like the unknown is always the thing that people are trying to figure out, you know. So they just fill it that box of unknown stuff with heaven or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's true.
Yeah.
Even though it was a joke, it was true. But yeah, similar to the pyramid is what I'm saying.
I like it.
I like it.
I like it.
I can tell by the way you say I like it, and you've said this in some of your other podcasts, that this is the conclusion of the conversation.
God, you know me so well.
That's true, man.
You know my mannerisms.
Interesting. I like it. Okay, is that
You're gonna play me
should
now.
we call it?
Yeah. So you have anything else you need to say?
Yeah.
Just throw one of those in there.
Yeah. I give up. That's
so
good.
funny.
Cool, man. That's it. Best artist in the world right now is Vasyl Lomachenko.
Oh God, that's
all
a
I
whole
wanna
nother.
say.
That's a whole nother conversation.
That is. You got to.
Vasyli's gonna come on the podcast right now.
I think you should. Well, you should. Here's what I think should happen. If it was me, and it's not me, I mean, the podcast's not mine, but what I would do is do each season 100 episodes. So you are officially starting season 2 of Artist Decoded, and hit it off with the best artist in the world, Vasyl Lomachenko.
At 101.
Yeah, 101. No. This is 101. Now we're going 201. What? Is that how you? I don't know. Yeah.
No.
101.
This is 100. This is episode 100, so it'd be 101.
I know, but like when they do seasons, it's like 201. Like when you do, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Labeling systems.
Like I said, if you can get him on the podcast, like contact his press agent, then
Dude,
we'll get him.
His house, man.
I'll get Roy Jones. I'll get Vasyl Lomachenko. That'd be an interesting podcast. That'd be a super interesting podcast.
It'd be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like it. I like it.
All right, man.
All right, cool.
Cool.
Should we call it?
I guess we shall.
All right, thanks, man.